I genuinely despise this useless little bird. Whoa, what? Cheddar's complaining about a Doors update not even a week after its release? Let's just go kill him. Now, settle down, viewers. Although I hate the new Caw entities in Doors, I do have my reasons. You see, when playing the new outdoor subfloor on Doors, you'll become very familiar with one of the new entities that were implemented in the update, those being Caws. In fact, the very first thing you see upon entering the subfloor is a group of Caws just chilling on a fountain. Now, upon first glance, you may be wondering, Cheddar, how can you hate this cute little bird? What did it ever do to you? That's the thing, though! It did nothing to me! It does nothing at all! The Caws, for lack of a better word, are absolutely useless, and I think that should change. In this video, I'll be going over everything you need to know about Doors' newest, most useless entity, including why I don't like it as well as why I think it should change. So, with all of that being said, let's begin. Alright, so before I utterly annihilate this bird until it becomes a rotisserie chicken, I should first go over what I do like about it, as I do admire certain aspects about the entity. Namely, its design and animations are very top-notch. The development team did a great job not only modeling this entity, but making it come to life with very fluid and diverse animations. In terms of visuals, the Caws are a 11 out of 10, although unfortunately that's where my praises end. The Caws, despite looking and behaving very cool, have a functionality that is completely non-existent. All this entity does is fly away and caw, like its name suggests, when a player gets near. That's it. That's all this useless little creature does. Just fly away and scream when you try to get a better look at it. This thing purely exists just for visuals, something to enhance the atmosphere of the subfloor, and nothing else. And I really think that should change in a future update. As I've said, the development team went really above and beyond modeling and animating this entity, so why would they just put all of that to waste by making it do absolutely nothing? I know nobody out here is saying the Caws are their favorite entity, or even in the top 10, simply due to how there's nothing really memorable about them. Compare that to something like Monuments, which are infamously very difficult to counter, or something like Grampy, who provides meaningful lore. The Caws kind of just exist to exist, and I feel that really does all the work into making it dirty. So, how should it change? Well, there's actually two things relating to the Caws which I think could be expanded upon to give the entity a more functional use, something to make it more memorable. And fortunately for you, they both help players instead of hinder them. You see, when Caws were first teased to us all the way a couple weeks ago, the developers stated how they were a bad omen for something. At the time, many players thought this meant the Caws screaming and fleeing would indicate some other entity has spawned or is present, such as the Groundskeeper, hence the whole bad omen thing. However, given the current functionality of the entity, or lack thereof, this bad omen thing doesn't really mean anything. So, what if it did? What if the Caws, instead of just sitting there like a rotting potato, actually did act as a warning for players to let them know another entity is coming? What if when the Caws detected an entity, they would all flee away without players getting near them to let the players know that the other entity is present? I feel that could make the Caws a little more useful, but the question still remains of what entity they could notify, and for that I have one main answer. That answer is, of course, the Monuments. Monuments, as I've described, are infamously one of the most difficult obstacles players have to face in the subfloor, mainly due to how it's nearly impossible to anticipate their arrival. Now, I actually think the unexpected nature of Monuments make them into a more well-executed entity, as it actually makes the subfloor harder to master, which fits with the whole trial and error aesthetic of the Doors game. However, I've seen a lot of people claim that they need to be nerfed despite that, as they're just way too difficult now. I personally kinda see their point, however, I don't think it should be nerfed too much. So what if we tie the Caws into that? Picture this. Whenever a player enters a room which has a monument entity inside of it, all the Caws in the room will scream and fly away, regardless of how close the player is to them. This way, players get the monument nerf they always wanted, as it makes the entity more easily detectable, as players are less likely to miss the violent storm of screaming birds. And it also gives the Caws an actual functionality, which fleshes out their character more. Really, this is a win-win situation, and I do hope something like this is added. The second functionality I think Caws should have, though, is tied to an achievement relating to them. Essentially, in the outdoors, players can obtain a special badge titled Feed the Birds, which requires players to feed Caws a piece of bread. Bread, as you may know, was previously obtainable only through trading with Louis in the mines, but now it can be found extremely rarely in loot containers in the outdoors. Now, given how every single entity in the subfloor instantly kills you, and how bread heals players, the only purpose of bread in the subfloor is for this one single achievement. So why not expand upon that? What if feeding Caws bread actually did something besides reward an achievement? Well, let's explore that idea. For starters, there should actually be an animation for feeding Caws bread. Right now, the way you get the badge is by eating the bread yourself with Caws in the vicinity. So you're not really feeding them. Instead, the way I think it should work is if you drop bread onto the ground, a nearby Caw will fly over and eat it, rewarding the achievement. However, what functionality would that even do? Well, I think it could work a little like Louis. By feeding a Caw a piece of bread, it would fly away into the distance. Then sometime later, it would fly back to you with a random item in its mouth, and it would give it to you to use. The item the Caw provides could be anything from lighters to skeleton keys. It would basically be a weaker version of Louis that only trades if you give it bread. If this functionality did exist though, I think bread should be made a little more common in the subfloor so players actually utilize it. And Caws should have a reduced spawn rate, as right now they are very common. It kind of takes away from the whole entity as there are so many of them. But other than that, I think this could be a great way to give the Caws a greater purpose. You could even implement both the monument detection and the bread feeding mechanic in order to make this entity really stand out functionality-wise. And that way, it could no longer be as useless as it is currently. Really, the point I'm trying to make is that so much effort has been put into the Caws visually that it should have a functionality to go alongside it, as right now the entity is basically useless. Now, don't get me wrong, I get having an entity purely for aesthetic reasons, that's what the Caws is right now. However, it should have something on top of that so, it doesn't waste space as being an entity. Having the Caws act like a monument detector as well as a bread trader could flesh out the character more and make it actually worthwhile, as even though the entity looks very cool, its lack of any meaningful purpose makes it just kind of there, just existing to exist, as I've said previously. Anyways, with all of that being said, let me know in the comments what you think of the Caws, as well as if you believe my ideas for enhancing them would be good additions, as although I think I'm pretty clever with that, I don't know, so I'd appreciate your feedback in the comments. Also, if you have any other ideas of how they could be improved, also leave them in the comments, as I'm always open to seeing more ideas. And thank you all for watching, and I hope you enjoyed.